Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
Good morning, welcome to Smashi Dubai Works. This week I have the pleasure of being joined with the CEO of Flash Entertainment, John Lickrish. Flash Entertainment is a renowned global events company, but it's a local and regional success story. Ever since its first event in 2007, it's gone on to bring some of the well-known and most followed and most attended events in the region. Global artists, they have over 400 events, 5,200 event days, and they've brought 8.5 million smiles. I'm going to ask John how they've calculated all those, but I assume it's all the people that have come through to the events. They've been recognized with industry awards, over 60 awards, and as we'll discuss, their breadth and the length of what they cover is a lot more than we would know as well. So good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. You're working. I assume that you're not at Do Arena right now, like your backdrop.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Sitting with 30,000 people. No.
So
That-
yeah,
that up.
you're working at home.
Yeah, I've been here since. Actually, I traveled to London at the beginning of March and had to do a 2-week quarantine after that, which new regulations had come in. But soon after, I think I made one day to back to the office, and we decided to just work remotely. And then, of course, we had the orders that came just after that as well. So. Yeah, it's been 2 months and I don't know,
Just
7 days.
over 2 months. Yeah, and we're in Ramadan as well now. So, but how have you found working from home? I've seen from online that you've attended virtual events yourself. You've been speaking, so it looks as if things have continued quite well.
Yeah, at the beginning it was a bit, hectic. We'd actually implemented a lot of remote systems because of just business continuity and emergency response, and we were finishing the testing of that. So it all came, in very good time. I think at the beginning, most people were just doing tons of calls, and that was just meeting after meeting after meeting, and you couldn't get in touch with anyone
Mm.
throughout the day because they were already pre-booked. But after a couple of weeks, and I started noticing I was having the same conversations with people over and over again. We kind of thinned out the meetings and gave people more opportunity to actually help
Yeah.
deliver output as opposed to just pontificating, as we like to say.
Interesting.
So that's been working really well. Our teams are fairly independent. As events go, you have to be fairly disciplined because you have a fixed date that you work from. The show must go on is a great saying, and when the band arrives, the event arrives, whatever that might be, the show has to happen one way or another.
Mm.
So we're kind of used to working, as we function under a matrix organization, but also very independent by departments and people
Yeah.
getting things have to get done. So it was just it's been a good transition, and I think there's a lot to learn from it. We're definitely traveling less, even locally. You can waste 2 or 3 hours just going to and from meetings during the day. So the productivity, I think, is way up, and I'm seeing some very good, uh, first generation ideas that are coming out. People are being a little more creative and being able to put time into the areas that we started off doing, which we just don't seem to ever find the moment to get back to.
Interesting. You mentioned a kind of a term that we've hear more and more lately called business continuity planning, that might fall under the remit of a CEO. How much of that you kind of alluded to that a company like an events company needs to have that as part of its operations in general, but we now assume that that's just for working from home. But of course, business continuity planning needs to cover a lot more things. So with the testing, and it's amazing that you're working on that quite timely, and not amazing that we've had to use it so quickly. But so what goes into a business continuity plan strategically?
Well, business continuity plan is actually very detailed and it's quite time consuming to develop. We have them already for our events. So we start with the people. It's where's our redundancy? Where's the next step if this person can't make it? Let's say I lose my production head, for example, due to a flu or a family emergency. You have to have someone else to step up to be able to take over those functions, and we need to know who to go to in those cases. So that was where it first starts is within the specific functions of the individual employees. Then it moves obviously into the departments and really who's tasked with what and which department can take over if we have a much bigger problem like an outbreak of a flu. And I don't want to refer to anything more serious than that, but flu, people get sick, and food poisoning, whatever that might be. How is that department's function taken over? Where is the redundancy there? And then obviously it goes into the company or into a specific event where if there's a catastrophic failure in the power systems, what is the next step there? Do we go to backup generators, or is there a redundancy power line we can use that comes from the grid? And it goes on to if we have a major fire in the office, what do we do if we have a Formula One Salam event? How do people function there? So we have remote offices that we can work from. Cloud system obviously is what we're using now, where we can have access files and we can complete our day-to-day tasks, especially around events, because a timing of the internet going down, or the fire in the office, or departmental disruption could affect whether we could deliver an event or not. And these are sometimes massive events like the Pope's visit, or the Asian Cup, or the Formula One, or a tennis. So we've been kind of operating loosely on this since we started. We always have an event manual that we work from, and knowing who's in charge of what, and then who is the next person in charge is very important for the team. But it's much broader than that when we get into these situations, and being able to function on a day-to-day basis, and then working towards our annual kind of goals and plans on what's happening next year. So that's where we're at now, is really the remote office. But it's a major incident that we're dealing with, and there's a lot of outcomes that obviously are very negative. And going into not only the resolution of those things, but future planning is really important in what we're kind of managing now. So it's a very in-depth process.
Yeah, it does sound as if everything's been thought through and worked out. From clouds to remote offices. Not that I'm surprised, but it's just such, alluded to it at the start. It's like a global company. Everything is thought of per se and well established for something that's, for Flash Entertainment, which is kind of in the early stages of its second decade in operation. Can you talk about the vision from the start, how it came about, how the journey has gone in the last 12, 13 years?
Yeah, I mean, really, the beginning was, it was a friend of mine who I went to university with, who was working here and working at Mubadala, asked me about doing events, and I'd come out to visit, and he was saying, we really need to start doing events here. We have all of this infrastructure that's going to be coming up in the next 10 years. And also there's an economy that can be built around major events and, the entertainment industry in general. And already bringing up some of the venues to international standards, and all the systems and processes that go around that. You have to start somewhere, and you can't just start out by developing a Formula One track and then everything that goes with it. So we were kind of the precursor to that, and it turns out that I had a major life-changing incident 2 or 3 days after I came to visit, where I had a serious life-threatening injury, and it took me about 1.5 years. And in that 1.5 year time, they were continuing on this path, and they invited me to come out to support a Justin Timberlake booking that they had done and deliver that first concert.
Wow.
It was such a success that I ended up getting a job in Mubadala, and then doing Bon Jovi. Then from there, I was seconded to the Executive Affairs Authority, which is a government entity who oversees the Formula One, 2454, New York University, Temkeen, and Injazat, et cetera, and developing really this plan. And the plan was to, how do we kickstart the events happening in Abu Dhabi, and the infrastructure within the industry, which is supporting our suppliers and finding gaps in the marketplace, as well as some of the typical government regulations and codes that need to be established, like health and safety, capacities, food and beverage kind of guidelines, uh, you know state of the art ticketing, transportation, and logistics operations. All of these things were basically non-existent. So developing that was really kind of our first phase, and we went to a plan to do a series of events over a 12-month period. And from there, we had just started seeing other opportunities to grow the business. The FIFA Club World Cup, I worked on that in 2008 and helped develop the plans. And there was an organization that was built to deliver the event. Flash ended up taking over that organization and kind of just tooling it up a bit and reducing obviously their overheads and working on their commercialization and making sure that the event was raised to the next level. The FIFA was happy with the first event, but we thought we could do a little bit better, and we of course did that. And then it moved on to obviously our tennis event, which is internationally televised. Our investment in UFC in 2000 and 2009, 2010, 10% stakeholders in delivering a global televised event live, outdoors, which had never been done before. And we really established Ticketmaster and kind of international brands that helped us bring state of the art technologies and services to our clients, as well as this credibility around the region, because most people perception was there was no events industry here, and if it was done very kind of loosey goosey, let's just say, compared to what happens now.
Yeah.
And with all of the Formula One happening and obviously having to the first impression from a truly global audience to see what Abu Dhabi was like and all of its assets and capabilities, it was very important that we had a head start, producing events and getting people used to congregating, used to not being able to park in front of venues and walk in, and used to buying tickets and sitting in the seats that they were assigned to, not buying cases of water or over top of the bar, single purchases, and using POS systems and all of those kind of things that didn't exist, and having a variety of food and beverage offerings, as well as ticketing and visual viewing experiences. And all of this stuff was non-existent when we came here. So that was really to bring us up to international standards, show the world that Abu Dhabi from a public's perspective. It was the first time that we were on a global audience with especially with the F1, to prove our capabilities and make sure that people didn't see us as second rate, or the experience here weren't as nice as they were in London or Stockholm or Toronto.
Yeah.
So that was really the first 10 years, and just diversifying what we were doing. It was just so many opportunities that we just couldn't miss out on. I originally wanted to get into horizontal and vertical investments, but the private sector's there. The government didn't want to interfere too much with what was already existing, and we became more of a support system to other entities, and as well as the private sector, and saying, look, this is how everything's got to be A+ here. And as you see, some of the artists and some of the events that we've done reflected that.
Amazing.
So most of them.
Yeah, so much to kind of go into there. It's a fascinating story, and aligned with a lot of
Start rambling, so
no problem. No, I'm already learning a lot, but I think obviously, and we'll go into it in more detail, the alignment with Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is a tourism destination, but also putting infrastructure in place that, as you said, can cross over to other entities. But just talking about the Flash Entertainment strategically in the events industry, I think you probably kind of said that things went from event to event and snowballed. But at what point do you kind of try and iron out of what your role in this is, and how much of that is vision led, and even you mentioned that you did an investment in a US company or a global company, UFC. How much of that is kind of part of the planning, and how do you describe Flash Entertainment as a business?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. There's a plan that we have a 3-year, which we typically try to adhere to very strictly, and then obviously extends for 5 years, which gets more into theoretical. And then you have to be able to adapt as you see opportunities or things that are not working. We do have a plan. The plan has always been the same. You need to get to some sort of critical mass. We do have a lot of administrative responsibilities because we are owned by the government. That is the shareholder, even though we're licensed by 2454 as a private sector company. We have a lot of responsibilities around, like I said, setting the standards within the industry and supporting the different entities and making sure that things work. But the plan has really been to, focus on our core, which was the delivering live events and A+ experience for our customers, as well as the content providers that are there, giving Abu Dhabi or making sure that Abu Dhabi remained like an A++ destination, that are premium experiences with premium content. And we just from that, we knew that we needed the suppliers to operate under that kind of guise as well, and make sure that they were doing the same thing. And we wanted to do a series of events, and we saw the opportunities around sports. We saw the opportunities around cultural events. We saw the opportunities around these huge international properties. We did work with the NBA and the UFC, and obviously FIFA and the Asian Football Federation. All of those entities, gave us, a platform and opportunity to showcase our skills. Where we see the events, obviously, is we are in a remote location, and the diversification of our geographical sphere has to expand. The only way that it's going to become more economically prudent to be, doing concerts is to have multiple stops in the territory. For a Disney to come, which is already there, but for The Weeknd or Drake, or sorry, I'm referring to all the Canadian guys. Yeah,
you're obviously a Canadian,
like,
yeah.
or Bon Jovi or Rolling Stone, is really to kind of shrink those the logistics and the geographical space. So coming to Abu Dhabi for one show before heading to Australia or Singapore or South Africa is still a big stop, and a lot of travels, a lot of expenses that go with it. So we see the opportunity is around working with groups in Saudi, and working with groups even in Dubai and Bahrain and Lebanon, India. Turkey was on our radar. So in the beginning, we had this geographical plan, but the economy, the big downfall in 2008 really kind of put a wrench in things, because we had worked on Greece and we'd worked on Turkey, and we were developing relationships there, and Lebanon had a decent scene going on, and South Africa was very popular as well. But the brand went down in value, which limited to the amount of events they're doing. Obviously, Lebanon was struggling through its own economic problems. Greece the same, and Turkey just become less important as a commercial stop. But in the beginning, it was the Rihannas, the Madonnas of the world were all going there, and that had changed because of just the economic or political situations. And now we're into a new area where we see Saudi being very active in the space, and we see people realizing, like maybe in Egypt, we've had a lot of discussions there about doing events, and people see the opportunities and the economic impact that it has. And also, the values and the social elements of people enjoying themselves, congregating as groups, just having some pride in your city. Believe it or not, these are all things that we've researched, that people, have come back to us and said that, feels that's what events feel to them. So we were now back into the next 10 years, and that geographical expansion is important, and finding the right partners in those different territories are there, like we are, for the long term. I think a lot of people didn't believe that, Flash was here going to and be part of the fabric and the society as an institution, as it has become.
So yeah, just sorry to interrupt. Just to touch on that, I think people see flagship brands in this region across the different industries, whether it's national airline carriers, Etihad or Emirates, and what you're describing, and as people become more familiar with the Flash story, for global brands like FIFA and Formula One, who are owned by listed companies, to choose Flash as their partner, and then for you to create your own IP, whether it's the Mubadala World Tennis event or the Mother of the Nation events, which are local concepts but have global standards.
Yes.
It kind of it shows the ambition there. And just touching on that, what's your preference personally and also business wise? Is it to create the IP of the events here for the region, for the world, or is it to partner as well with global events?
Well, I think that it's a combination of the two things. I mean, it used to be just pure partnerships and just emulating what was happening in other markets. I think that for us to be successful is really creating, using those international brands, their experience globally, their connections into, content or sponsors or, distribution, depending on what particular product you're talking about, and then creating something that's unique for the region. I think we have I know we have a very diverse population. We have different tastes and different things. I mean, people might like a Beyonce show, but if you're doing something like Ya Salam, where we have Arabic artists and we have Filipino artists and Indian artists and Lebanese artists, there's something for everyone. And we really wanted to cater that product to the local population, where just recreating something that happens. I mean, first of all, they didn't have a Formula One entertainment program that was centrally coordinated in any city. So we were the innovators in that space. And we saw that as an opportunity back in 2008, saying, well, why don't we have a centralized, coordination where there's one entity running with all of the events, and it's in focus and supporting the Formula One, also exposing the cultural elements of Abu Dhabi. Because when you go to a Formula One in Abu Dhabi, you want to have the Abu Dhabi experience. You don't want to, even if you're an international traveler from London or Los Angeles or Germany, you don't want to come here and have the same experience you'd have in your home city. You want to be here to see something different. And it's about those experiences that people want to travel to Abu Dhabi. The track is amazing, and that's unique, and the sundown race is unique. But what else can you do? People travel in groups. They don't all have the same taste, and creating an environment or creating a product that is very diverse and culturally, as well as and from an entertainment perspective, was really important. So going back to your point, we do see the value in creating IP and partnering with some international recognized brands, but doing something unique that Flash could put its flair on. And a lot of the discussions we have, and we did this with the Club World Cup. I mean, we really tried to do something different in 2010. That we were met with a lot of resistance from FIFA at first. They're very limited. They have a formula, and they like to just cookie cutter that everywhere they go. It turned out a very positive. It was funny because the guy who was in charge of the Club World Cup back in 2009 and 10 just texted me the other day. We still keep in touch, and he's working at the AFC. But I think the relationships we established prove that, number one, we could deliver the events not only to the standard that they already set globally, but to create a unique experience that differentiate us than other cities, and also expanded their fan base as well.
I think that's fascinating. I think people can relate to it across different industries and business with franchises and bringing brands here, and I think they'll empathize with your struggle on some of those. To show the value. And I remember going to Nürburgring in 2005 for a Formula One event, and it was vastly, vastly different than the experience in Abu Dhabi. And I can kind of relate to, what you've done at that level. So it's amazing. And I think, I guess that's what you mean by finding the right partners, whether it's across the region or international, that can see the value that Flash Entertainment brings. Can you talk a little bit about UFC? Because there was an initial investment, and then that was exited, and then now UFC Arabia have their own events. And how has that materialized, and what's your kind of take on that?
Well, it was very interesting. I mean, it was a surprise call I had from the chairman. I think it was back in 2009. It must have been early 2009. So we were going to meet Frank and Lorenzo and Dana. So I was quite excited because it was actually something that I used to watch when I was living in Toronto at the time. And it was something I used to watch with my friends as well as my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. It was, easy for everyone to understand a sport that we could get together, drink a few beers on the couch and all and spend, 3 or 4 hours, socially. So I was quite excited about it. And it first came up about hosting an event. And then the next thing, it was brought up at a much higher level than me, but about an investment. And I think the UFC saw it as a strategic play for them because of the connections Abu Dhabi has within medias and obviously their financial investments globally. And they wanted to establish better relationships and get these big deals with Fox or ABC, which eventually ended up happening. And it was a short-term investment. 10 years. But for the company, it was purely. It initially was done financially, but the benefits were there. UFC loved us because we were doing something unique, and it was something in the region. It was a territory that they saw as an expansion into Asia. Well, we are in Asia, but anyway, from the GCC into some of the other countries that are further to the east. And we also already had the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championship, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was already in the public schools. And you had the legends in the sport who knew some of the leadership in Abu Dhabi and trained them and worked with them and saw how passionate they were about, mixed martial arts, specifically Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, there was all these synergies between the two groups, and it just became all, we could use someone like, the Abu Dhabi Inc., voice to talk about our brand. And, after the 10 years, I think it was time to exit, and everyone greatly benefited from that. It was an incredible investment. We learned a lot from the UFC. They learned a lot from us. We produced an event outdoors the first time. And I remember on the conference calls when we were talking about it, the Anderson Silva and Frankie Edgar 2 title fights, they kept freaking out about the venue. And I was, on the phone, kept saying, don't stop with the venue. This is what we do. Like, we can build a venue in the middle of the desert. We could do anything. It would be like half underwater if you want. I'm not worried about that. I was like, let's worry about promoting this event, getting the pay-per-views and getting the, the tickets. Well, that was my bigger concern. But they were so used to just going into arenas, that had, decades of event experience. It was something new for them, and we never worked together. But obviously the event went smashingly well, and it was a good start to the relationship. We'd hoped to build something larger with them, but again, it was about resources. They were focusing on major markets. We still see an opportunity. There's another event coming this year, and the last was very, very successful as well. So the relationship is still there, still conversations happening. Just the investment when Endeavor decided to purchase the UFC, that's when the time was just like, okay, we've done our thing. There's a great bump in price, and
Yeah, amazing. So and they grew as well. So it was, you kind of grew together in many ways, internationally and locally. So the UFC Arabia is part of Endeavor globally, and it's separate now.
Well, I don't know if there's a UFC Arabia. There's a UFC events that happen here.
But just okay. The web okay.
You tell me. It's not. I'm not part of that initiative. Actually, it's something that the Tourism Authority has developed a plan and a structure with the UFC over a certain amount of years, and we just get called in to produce the events from time to time. Okay. So we'll.
Interesting. So amazing. So just touching on something that you mentioned in terms of the region and partnerships. We've seen recently in the news that Abu Dhabi have made an investment in Live Nation with Ticketmaster. How do you view that in terms of being a private company and a listed company? Do you think it's a good news for the region and the events business in general?
You mean Saudi Arabia?
Sorry, what did I say? Saudi Arabia, yeah.
Yeah, no, Abu Dhabi.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe
yeah, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I look. I mean, it's good. I think it shows that the Saudis are very committed to long term into delivering events and having event programs in KSA. Obviously, being a very close neighbor and very good relations with, it's a positive move. I think it will give a lot of attention to the region as well. Obviously, Live Nation doesn't own much content. They're more of a concert promoter and a touring company, more ticketing and food and beverage sponsorships, et cetera. But yeah, I think it will benefit everyone greatly. The biggest hurdle, as I said in the beginning, and what we've been trying to overcome since 2007, is really we don't have a touring region, and to have
Mm.
something that we can, bring artists over. That way, we can negotiate a little bit stronger on pricing, and the economies of scale obviously kick in for them as well as us. There'll be more opportunity to bring content into the region and the diversity of content, and hopefully as well, developing and exporting some content. Like I said, the Yasalam program, the Formula One event series, which we used to be completely responsible for. Now the private sector has picked up some elements of it, and other agencies, is something that the Formula One is trying to emulate around the world.
Mm.
Tennis event as well as an XO. You see other countries now saying, "Do we want a 2-week tournament?" I'm nothing taking away from the ATP. Obviously, they're fantastic. We would love to have one of those events here, but they're just not that. There's none up for
Mm.
for license. So we have to make good, and it also was around the facility that we had. But we want to be creating, and we want to develop stuff that is regionally relevant, and as well as bringing some international attention to what we're doing here, and not just a one-off, high paying, nobody, no financial returns on these events kind of attitude or perception that we have, which is 100% not the case.
Yeah. So I guess
So,
the touring aspect is, it would need kind of regional collaboration. It would be great for you, for example, if Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and a Levant country joined up, and you kind of had a seasonal collaboration where the Rolling Stones, or U2, or we can mention Drake again, or someone Canadian.
Sure.
But
yeah,
yeah.
Bieber, Celine Dion,
Just to be Celine Dion.
Michael Bublé.
Michael Bublé, amazing. Yeah. So rather than them viewing, rather than them Nickelback, keep going. I should think of some. I'm not that good at music, but so they should rather than see the region as a kind of for want of a better term, cash cow, or a one-off payment, and and they might then be seen in the mercenary terms. It would be better if the region almost worked together, aligned tourism strategically to have 5 or 6 stop-ops, and then there would be a lot more kind of economics of scale at your level in terms of exactly, for the whole events industry.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. Again, we've been working on this since 2007. A lot of the research that I had done, even with the initiatives around tourism, we're looking at like what is the best model to operate under or try to achieve. I saw a lot of reports about the region being a touring area, having people come for like 10 days, where they could do a few days in Dubai, a few days in Abu Dhabi, go into the desert, and go maybe off to Bahrain, or Egypt, Lebanon, whatever the case may be.
Jordan, yeah.
And having everyone kind of benefit from that. I think there was even talk about some coordination around some of the bigger sporting events at one time, way back. But obviously there has to be established promoters in all of our event producers in all of those territories, and they have to be able to maximize their revenues and drive diversification of those revenue streams to help bring these events in. And once that kind of comes along, I mean, it's always difficult for collaboration, because the way that the industry works is a competitive bidding process, and the more fear there is about you not getting a show, the more likely are you to throw a few more $100,000 at it. The collaboration either has to be through a mutual investment, or it's mutual benefit, where people in theory can see the benefit. I think the collaboration piece has to be amongst some of the bigger players at a much higher level. From a strategic position, of whether that's the touring companies, or whether that's some of the content owners, or whether that's the governments themselves. Getting a little bit more involved, and saying, look, that we by the sum of our parts, we're all going to be there'll be more benefit for us to gain than saying I want the exclusivity for this artist and take all of the
Yeah.
tourism money or travelers that may come in. Um,
S- So,
but then again, I'm not a tourism expert. I'm not a hotel expert. I do know about those kind of things, but I think it's very difficult, especially in the beginning. We just need more collaboration. People to understand, the long-term objectives and what people have, which it can be hard because you have a lot of transient people in
yeah.
these territories as well. So they want to be here for 3 years, make the biggest bang, and leave, and
Mm.
they don't have a 10-year plan or a 20-year plan.
So you mentioned,
Unlike us.
unlike Abu Dhabi does and the tourism industry does, and one of the benefits people say, and I guess is generally assumed of being a private company, is that you can plan longer term. How much of what you do events wise is related is public service, as in some of the events that you create is for the community, for the city, for the country. You do the Mother of the Nation event. There's a recent Moments campaign that you've done, and
Yeah.
there's lots of kind of. Is that CSR? Is that public service? You've done the papal visit.
No,
Okay.
those are actually fee for service. Yeah, you touched on like the Pope visit, Mother of the Nation. We've done a few times in the past. We didn't do the last one, and we're not doing the one that'll be coming currently. These are all competitive bids that we work with or try to win
Mm,
through other government agencies. Like I said, we do operate as a private sector entity,
mm,
and we compete with the private. We compete with our competitors.
yeah.
That's redundant, no, but we compete with other event agencies, and we actually make money on those events.
Yeah.
So it's who has the most creative ideas, what kind of cost controls or whatever mechanisms they have to deliver quality at a cheaper price. Those are the things that win those bids. But there is a creative element. The Moments one came up in very short notice, and we'd had done a lot of community stuff again, I've referred to the Formula One event and the Yasalam program, which was more than just about concerts. We had, lecture sessions for university students. We had engineers coming in. We had health and fitness. We had an arts program. We had movie nights, fan zones. We had food culture, kids parades representing different nationalities. And those things were more about CSR, but really making the whole community feel like they were part of the F1 as well. So when we do, again, what seems as CSR events like the Post Visit, that is a fee that we do charge. Some of the CSR stuff that we do is really in support of charities. We support the Red Crescents. We do the Last Mile. We manage the the Terry Fox Run.
Mm,
We do a golf event, support a golf event with one of our ex-employees who unfortunately passed away from to cancer. And we also work with other regional charity and events to support them through auctions and giving away prizes, logistics, and things like that. But there is sometimes an element of what we do where we bring the community in. The tennis brings a lot of the community in, where we do tennis in schools, and we have the coaches come in and teach other coaches how to coach.
mm,
There's a lot of give back to the community in those things. And with the bigger events around football, we always try to incorporate these activations that either go into schools or go into public places, and working with the PLC and their activations, bringing more of the community and younger kids in, getting them interested, getting them into wellness and health, getting them into activities and group activities where they can congregate and develop social skills. So that's been a big part of what we do. It isn't the only thing that we can justify. We try to bring it into the things and make some of the content owners,
mm.
like the Tourism Authority, believe that that there is a benefit to the community for that. And owners of Mother of the Nation, as well as the Moments.
Amazing. I'm not purposely avoiding COVID-19 or talking about the current scenario. There just seems to be so much to discuss about Flash and the events business in general. And I'd like to touch on the future and the plans for events. And, you can talk about the virtual ones, but also big events like the Olympics and other things like that. And even business type events. But just strategically for Flash, it's a private company. There are other private companies here in the region. Do you think what does the future hold in terms of growth? Do you think there is an exit? will you see more companies like that go on the stock market? Like we saw some IPOs out of the region recently in the energy sector. And what's your kind of plan for Flash?
Well, it was like three in one there, I think. So which one do you focus? COVID-19, innovation in the space, or
just the first one on where the roadmap for Flash as a business, and then we'll talk about the future a bit.
Well, this is a very hard time. I mean, for the world as well. Obviously, we're part of the world, so it's a difficult time for us. People's health, which is paramount, and it's something that is our first priority when we do events. Is that the wellness and the health of people, providing a safe environment, and everything comes down from there. So obviously, when you see people being affected globally, and whether obviously families and people losing their lives and the economic damage, it's tough to take. So we're just trying to really keep the team motivated, even though that we're not doing events. Our events stopped in March, and the ones that we were currently working on, were immediately shut down, or they weren't being delivered. But obviously, most of the planning and cost comes before the event actually happens. So those were closed off, and we just don't know when we're going to start. We've looked at some ideas for after Ramadan about low density kind of social gatherings where people can get outdoors and experience different things. We're working on ticketing and capacity. We're working on health and safety, having sprayers at the venues, having thermal detectors, having individual screenings, and obviously sanitizers, and developing, spatial recognition patterns on the floor where people could stand to give them, different space. But again, it all depends on what's happening to people's health. If there's still a number of cases that are being spread, or it's really up to the public. Are they going to be comfortable in going out? Are we going to get content to come in? Or are we going to have to stick with local events? So everything is very up in the air. We're talking to different artists about doing some digital stuff online, and really focusing from a corporate perspective as how we operate as a company. What are the innovations or changes we're going to make in the future? And reevaluate everyone's job descriptions, as well as the functions of the departments, the 3-year, 5-year plan that we had put out, how we can better work with some of our suppliers, looking at obviously increasing or trying to diversify our revenue streams, efficiencies of scale, and again, it's up in the air of what the future is going to hold. Is it going to be the end of this year? Is it going to be next year? Is it going to be 2 years? We just don't know. Surveys that have been done of showing 60% of the people are not going to be comfortable going into a smaller space. We've seen in the States, I saw a manifest from Ticketmaster just released about using 20% capacity of the venue, which is never going to work for us, because just like I said, we don't have the touring route. So to have, it's not like some guy or girl can get in her car and drive, to the venue and spend a few $1,000s in setting up and performing. We're talking about people flying in from, London or, New York, LA, which is logistically quite expensive. So we're going to have to come up with the creative ideas and look at things that we can create here that don't rely on, touring content or content that comes from abroad. It's good because our team is very motivated. It's something that we're looking at for our next 10 years anyway. And it's just circumstances. Obviously, I would be much happier if we were in different circumstances doing all of these things. But we have to remain productive. We have to remain positive, and making sure that we're accomplishing that kind of these weekly, monthly, and annual goals. And as more information comes out in time, and then we'll adapt to that, like we always have done. We've been very good at kind of pivoting and moving. This might be a massive pivot for us. There might be some, fundamental changes in the industry in general, even in travel. So all of those things will have to be assessed. But right now we're planning for the fourth quarter. We're planning to deliver some of our Monarchy events, and we're not going to be doing as much as we had wanted to do, for sure. I don't see the point in cannibalizing, and a lot of people want to get back into the space. A lot of people want to go out, if we have the permission to do so. And it's really about what we're going to be doing in 2021 until 2025.
Okay, so we see some people having digital or virtual only events. I think you alluded on another interview to something about having access on virtual and physical for visitors or for customers, but also we see the gaming and esports
Yeah.
area, and I think recently Fortnite did something with Travis Scott,
Yeah.
if I have his name right, and he attended one of your events before, right?
He was supposed to come. Oh no, yeah, did it years and years ago. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why. I probably blocked it out of my memory. He's a fun. He likes to have fun. So just leave it at that. It was challenging for my team. But I did come to the Formula One event. I think it was about maybe 4 or 6 years ago. I'm believe it or not, a huge fan of Travis Scott. So, but he canceled the last one. We brought him on the bigger stage because of his foot injury. He had to go to the hospital, or get a surgery done on his ankle. And he did his live thing on Fortnite. You're right. It was great. I mean, my kids were super excited. I was excited to see, how they were gonna, use it, create an avatar of him and have him perform in this virtual world. It was really kind of cool.
Wow.
There's great, Post Malone did, like a rock set of Nirvana, covering all of Nirvana songs, which was fun to watch. Global Citizen did a big charity event with a, plethora of artists and then performing. But again, these are all being done for charity, or they're not really being, they're not monetized. I think it's going to be difficult because if you've seen the history of the music business, especially with Napster in the beginning days and illegal downloads and artists like, oh, everyone's getting this stuff for free, we're not being compensated. How is that compensation model going to work? And again, people are used to getting, they are going to be used to getting, to see events live for free, streaming free. And when you start putting a dollar on amount, is it going to create a backlash? How long is that going to get for people to get over? Can you get sponsors to come in and support? These are all questions that need to be answered. And it all depends on, how long this goes for. I mean, I think artists are quite content to be at home working in the studio, developing relations and collaborations. A lot of other projects they work on, whether it's, in TV or film or clothing, real estate, whatever. I mean, they're very, very diverse, this new generation and what they're doing. So it's always a battle for their time. And I think they're going to focus on other things for now. See how the touring route comes back, and then we'll see really what the changes are. I think Super M, just one of the K-pop bands, sold 72,000 tickets for one of their live streaming shows.
Wow.
There's a huge appetite, as you know. Nothing on TV really, other than Netflix, and I finished that about a week ago. Going into the foreign language section and things that I haven't.
Yeah.
But that's my insomnia. 4 hours a day. But I think it's a great opportunity. I think there might be some sort of element that people, especially if there's some lifting of restrictions and people can congregate at least as social groups and go to like it was like having a local DJ or your friend DJing at a house party. Maybe it's having performance being streamed live and people instead of going out in large groups, going out in smaller groups. But we're gonna have to see. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure and trillions of dollars in this system that currently exists. So I think there'll be a lot of resistance to be switching drastically. But what people want and what people are willing to do is going to be what the driver is to the next phase.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing everything today. I think, judging by the path that Flash Entertainment has been on, it's a safe bet to assume that you'll be part of the innovation. And looking at the image behind you, I think hopefully, inshallah, everyone will be able to congregate again in the future with a vaccine. We all see how amazing that venue is, the acoustics, and we want it to be packed with 80,000 people again one day in the future.
Yeah, well, we have also the new Etihad Arena that's coming online in September. So
amazing.
That's one of the innovations. We were doing greenfield sites when we got here. Then we went into, a very rough area, which is not rough area, but a very rough kind of what you would term as a venue at at the time it was just called the arena for our world. Then we went on to the do things. So those innovations have taken. Now we're into a space where we have a brand new state of the art indoor arena that's being developed for 18,000 people.
Oh wow!
The title sponsor of Etihad. But those were some of the innovations. There was no naming rights deals and no that existed in the region. We were the innovators in that space as well, helping us bring in some of these artists. People know that these artists aren't cheap, so having a title sponsor coming on and guaranteeing us X amount of sponsorship over a 4-year period allowed us to be very flexible and do those things. So we're very proud of our partnership with Do, and we'll continue that as well as our new partnership with Etihad. Hopefully there'll be flying tons of people in here.
Yeah, hopefully. And
I think they're thinking the same too. So
with all the precautions and hopefully everything going well, will we be able to attend an event at the Etihad Arena this year? And what event will it be?
Well, Disney on Ice is scheduled for the beginning of September.
Okay.
That's the plan now. Again, we're waiting for the tourism authority to tell us what the restrictions, or if any, are going to be there in place. And again, the time we'll see what happens during the summer.
Okay.
And as you said, we never know.
Well,
we think positive.
A good
plan
note,
for the worst. Hope for the best.
Hope for the best. A good note to finish on. Thanks again, John, for your time this morning, and well done, all the success, and wish you well in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.